What's up, guys? Let's talk about executive orders by the president for more stimulus checks on a federal level for everybody in the nation. You've heard that the president has issued executive orders for wiping out $10,000 of student loan debt forgiveness. But a lot of people are saying, what about those fourth federal level stimulus checks? Well, the success of these executive orders for stimulus provisions will likely determine what's going to be unfolding with more executive actions for stimulus. A conservative group just asked the Supreme Court to block Biden's student loan forgiveness, saying it is critical that the relief is halted this week. Now, this just came out yesterday, and the concern is that the president does not have the legal authority to issue new funds. Congress holds the power of the purse. However, the president does have the legal authority to reallocate and reissue existing funds. Here's the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. This is the pandemic money tracker, as we are currently dealing with the pandemic money that has been issued by the federal government. You can see out of administrative actions, they have spent a certain amount of up to $1 trillion available for legislative actions. This is where Congress steps in this orange bar. There has been allocated $6 trillion, and out of that $6 trillion distributions amount to $5.5 trillion, meaning that there is still $500 trillion left over just sitting there, which is almost exactly what is going to be needed if we were to send out a fourth federal level stimulus check of $2,000. Back in January, $2,000 regarding stimulus checks, there was a petition that hit 3 million signatures. That's roughly about 1% of the nation's population, saying we need stimulus checks. But they were saying it was needed due to the pandemic. But also, this one wanted $2,000 per month stimulus checks to go out to everybody in the nation. We are dealing with some pretty record high inflation right now, and it's hurting the American people. But the argument has been made that if it was just stimulus checks that went out there could be more targeted, more focused, and not all of these other stimulus provisions, just sending out stimulus checks. This just came out in August, stimulus check likely in the next recession. An article that came out recently said former Treasury secretaries are also saying that a recession is likely coming and stimulus checks will be needed. Bloomberg economists forecast a 100% chance but US recession next year, meaning we are likely going to be entering into a recession as we enter into 2023. And more stimulus provisions and assistance are likely going to be needed. People are going to be hurting. We are hearing that things are not going to be looking good for our economy, and to add insult to injury. Europe's pandemic wave happening right now is suggesting that the US outbreak is going to be looming around the corner, and they are saying, prepare yourselves. For the winter time, a new wave of the pandemic is going to be hitting. And the concern is that this is even more contagious and more transmissible than we had with the Omicron variant. And as you recall, the concern is not the deadliness of this particular strain. The concern is that everybody getting sick all at the same time will put a strain on resources, overwhelm hospitals, and cause a lot of pain all at once. So let me get you caught up on what is happening right now with the executive orders by the president for the stimulus to wipe out $10,000 of student loan debt, as well as what's going to be unfolding that will likely be a huge determining factor as to what's going to be unfolding with stimulus checks. Another article that just came out yesterday says a conservative group just asked the Supreme Court to block Biden's student loan forgiveness. That could mean other executive actions by the president could get blocked as well, including ones for stimulus checks. However, it also could be that he just went about this the wrong way. President cannot issue new funds, but he can reallocate existing funds, and we have existing funds just sitting there that can be tapped into. It says a Wisconsin conservative group is asking the Supreme Court of the United States to block Biden's student debt relief. This comes after a federal judge already struck down the lawsuit saying that the group does not have standing. The groups argued that loan forgiveness has an improper racial motive and is unconstitutional. A conservative taxpayer group wants President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness plan blocked as soon as possible, and has taken matters to the Supreme Court. The Brown County Taxpayer Association in Wisconsin filed an emergency request to the Supreme Court on Wednesday, asking to temporarily pause Biden's student debt relief plan before Sunday, when the group expects the administration to start officially canceling borrowers' debts. So that's gonna be happening this weekend in just a few days. If it is not blocked, the conservative group represented by the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty will initially file a lawsuit against the debt relief on October 4. It said Biden exceeded his constitutional power by enacting the loan relief without congressional approval. It is critical that the U.S. Supreme Court weighs in on the president's unconstitutional student loan relief plan before Sunday, when the loan forgiveness could start. The Sunday deadline refers to the previous court filing from Biden's administration that noted no student debt could be canceled before October 23rd. The group is asking the Supreme Court to respond to the two questions surrounding the legality of loan forgiveness, whether a taxpayer can sue in federal court to prevent the overreach of constitutional spending power, and whether the HEROES Act permits broad debt relief for millions of Americans. The HEROES Act has been widely debated even before Biden announced debt relief, while his administration said that it gives the Educational Secretary the authority to modify or waive student loan balances in connection with a national emergency like the pandemic. Many conservatives have claimed that Biden's policy is an overreach of that authority. At least 6 major conservative groups have filed lawsuits seeking to hold Biden's student debt relief, and while federal judges have struck down at least 2 of them so far, borrowers are still awaiting the decision from a federal judge who heard arguments last week from 6 Republican-led states who sought to block the loan forgiveness, arguing that the relief could hurt their state's tax revenues. The emergency filing also comes just days after Biden's official launch of the student loan forgiveness application. During Monday's remarks, Biden noted that 8 million borrowers had already applied for the relief through a simple form that takes just minutes to fill out but only requires basic information like borrowers' email addresses and social security numbers. For now, the Biden administration is moving forward with the debt relief application process and recommends that borrowers submit their forms before mid-November to ensure that the debt cancellation will be processed before payments resume in January. So there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you in the next one.